Hey guys, it's Crash here with Krashing Down Survivor South Pacific. The final episode this past Sunday going down on the finale right here. And it was a decent finale. The show ended on a pretty good note. It had been stagnant for a few weeks. I felt like this season of Survivor, up until the merge, was a top 5 Survivor season. And as soon as the merge hit, there was a couple bombs that went off. Then after that, it became awfully predictable. All those big moves you like to see at the end of the game, they just really didn't happen. It was one of the seasons where everyone sticks together and just dissolves the other tribe. The tribe getting dissolved has nothing to counter with. They don't have any plays in the book. They just accept losing, basically, and blame it on Cochrane. That was kind of the theme of this season. Anyhow, starting off on the finale, it was Ozzy versus Brandon in a duel. They had the old typical challenge. All they have to do is try and balance on a pole. And I say all they have to do. That's very hard because you're not standing on top of it. Your arms and legs wrapped around it. I believe there was 4 rungs. Brandon put up a great fight. Even though he got himself voted out, he might have been one Idiot of the Year, Idiot of Survivor all time, most likely, but still falls off the ledge, even though he almost outlasted Ozzy. Ozzy's getting really wobbly up there, and Ozzy enters back into the game. I've been crying about this for weeks now, that the old Upalu members should have voted off one of their own, or tried just putting someone over there that could have compete with Ozzy, because he gets back in the game, he wins the immunities, he is a lock for $1 million. He's getting 7 out of 9 votes, I guarantee it. So Ozzy comes back in the game, and basically you have Coach, Rick, Sophie, and Albert. They're going to try and take each other, or some combination. You can only take 3, of course, so Ozzy has to win every immunity. Ozzy comes over, wants to try and stir the pot a little bit. I guess I understand what he's doing, but the guy just cannot play a social game, and it showed once again. He tried talking to Coach, he started getting a little mischievous back on the island, hadn't played with those people very long at all that he was with at camp, just was acting real cocky, and really was just rubbing people the wrong way. You know, if you're trying to work something out of the bottom of a barrel right there, that's not exactly going to be your best strategy. You probably want to go in sucking up hardcore to one of the members, maybe making up a lie or two, but you don't go out there arrogant throwing them all under the bus. You only throw one under the bus, you target them, go to someone else, flip a lie, maybe it works, it probably won't, but it never is going to work in your best interest to act like he did. They get to the first immunity challenge. It is a very challenging one. You have to hold a lever with one arm and build basically a stack of cards. I don't know really what they're tiles, not sure what they're made out of, but very limited amount. You had to get to a certain height. Very tough challenge. Pretty much, or actually everyone that tried to build it had their tower collapse at some point. Ozzy, once again, comes through winning immunity, the all-time immunity king in Survivor history, puts himself in a position where all he has to do is win one more following that, and he is going to win $1 million. So we get to the vote. Ozzy trying to put his 2 cents in, Rick trying to stay in the game. Coach promises Rick, who's done nothing this entire game, that he's going to keep him around. However, the others are going to get Rick out, and I think this is a good move here. Even though I don't think Rick had any chance of winning this game, you had to keep people in the game that could beat Ozzy at this point. You made the mistake so long. Rick's not going to win a challenge. You vote off Sophie. She's very smart. She wins immunities. She had already won 2 prior to this. You don't want to vote her out. Albert, maybe not the best in challenges, but the guy's still got a shot. He's in athletic shape. Coach, he's been around 3 times. You probably don't want to get rid of him if you're trying to beat Ozzy. So it's a no-brainer. They vote out Rick in this situation. The votes go down 3-2. Coach making it the swing vote, getting rid of him. It's Coach. I want to say it was Coach, Ozzy, and Albert that voted. I could be wrong on that. Either way, 3 votes go down for Rick. That eliminates him from the game. We move on. We got 4 left. Coach, Sophie, Albert, and Ozzy. And this is what I love about this season. The final 4, in my opinion, are probably the 4 strongest players that played in the game this season. You know, Ozzy made some very questionable moves with the social game, as usual, but his athleticism, I guess I got to give him props somewhat for winning all of those duels, coming back in like he did and putting himself in a position to win the game. Even though I hate Redemption Island, he still used it to his advantage. You got to give him credit for that. We go into the final challenge, one of the tougher mazes, the obstacle courses. I love when they do this for the final challenge. You have to go to each station, gather some bags through a bunch of obstacles, get back to a puzzle. Ozzy is absolutely dominating this challenge. I'm sitting there watching on the TV, just shaking my head in disgust because I think he's going to win this immunity, and then it's like sheep to the slaughter at Final Tribal Council. Ozzy's going to take it. However, he cannot solve the puzzle. The Master of Immunity challenges needed just to win one more. The one that Boston Rob was able to win last year and then win the game. He needed that immunity. Ozzy needed that immunity. It would have been a similar finish. However, it's Sophie that wins the final immunity. And when she won that, I basically knew she had just won herself $1 million. Good for her. They get down to the vote. Ozzy tries to work Coach, saying, "You play with honor and integrity. You should keep me. You should follow your word," which Coach said his word would take Ozzy. You know, Coach is a different guy. He plays his game a little different. He played a very smart game this time. But I think there's a part of him as his Warrior Alliance that may have considered taking Ozzy. But Ozzy wanted to go in. At the last Tribal Council, he started slamming Sophie. I mean, big time slamming Sophie, calling her names and telling her she didn't belong there, yada, yada, yada. Girl's barely over 20 years old. This guy's just out there being a big bully. Does not work for him in his favor. By the way, at the last Tribal Council, the ones that voted for Rick were Coach, Ozzy, and Sophie. That was the actual vote right there. Anyhow, at this Tribal Council, it's pretty simple. Coach has had enough of Ozzy's cockiness. He throws him out of the game. 3 votes to 1, and Ozzy is done. Gets a standing ovation. Everyone's clapping for him. Yay, Ozzy did it again. Impressive that what he did not play a good game of Survivor. He played a good game of being athletic. The top 3 players made it to the end. This is very rare in Survivor history. I believe the best game that was played this season was Coach. Second best, and not far behind at all, was Sophie. I feel like Albert played an admirable game too. Their biggest mistake again was letting Ozzy back in, but luckily Sophie was able to fix it all in one swoop with that immunity and save the day. Perhaps I feel like maybe Albert or Coach should try to get rid of Sophie at an earlier point in the game and maybe keep someone like Cochran. But it's always a risky move. I felt like Coach did make some risky moves, so it's hard for me to fault him too bad on that. We get to the final Tribal Council. Everyone hammering Coach. It's apparent Albert has no chance. And Sophie, I believe, has a pretty good one right now. She got really emotional at the last Tribal Council when Ozzy was slamming her. I feel like the jury really bought that. Very good play on her part. She was extremely nervous at the final Tribal Council. I wouldn't say she actually answered her questions very well. I feel like Ozzy did, Coach did a decent job. And I feel like Albert actually did a decent job. They just really didn't have anything for Albert, and deservedly so. I feel like Coach and Sophie played the best games clearly this season. So we're looking at the votes coming down here. You can pretty much say that pretty much all of Savai'i is wanting to vote for Sophie for whatever reason, except Cochran. He was on Coach's side. The best speech I like, though, out of all of them, and there was a lot of your usual complaint speeches going on. We're not going to get into that. These people on the final jury, they didn't get more original, and I feel like we're getting the same questions constantly. Why should the other 2 win? Come on, you have all that time on Ponderosa. You can come up with a more original question than that. Edna goes up there and spouts off, why should we criticize people for going against you, for lying, for cheating, for doing whatever it takes to get to the end? This is what we signed up for in Survivor. And thank you, Edna. You are absolutely right. You signed up for this. You signed up to be out in the woods. You signed up to be deceived. You signed up to be cheated. You signed up to be backstabbed by your best friend. Why should we constantly criticize people for that? It is a game for $1 million. players. You can blame it on your peers. You can blame it on the ones sitting there at the end. But ultimately, you have to accept responsibility that it's your fault where you are. Some people are dealt worse hands in this game. I've seen Russell Hands 2 times be dealt a very tough hand from the start of the game, having his name on the block almost every episode, and he found ways to work out of it. I'm not saying that's how everybody can play this game, but what I'm saying is a lot of these players these days, they put all of their faith into other people, and they don't ever take the game into their own hands. That's why they get voted out. That's why they go to Redemption Island, and that's why they're sitting on the jury. To wrap it up, a bitter jury, in my opinion. They gave it to Sophie, claiming to win $1 million. Congrats to her. I was actually very happy for her. I thought it was going to be a 5-4 vote rather than 6-3. Felt some of them were being a little bitter. Coach, I believe, if it were me voting, I'm voting Coach. But they voted Sophie, and I can't complain about that. You know, it's not like they gave it to a nobody. It's not like a Natalie White situation on Hance's season, Russell. So, you know, I was happy with it. I felt like Sophie played a good medium radar game. She made moves when she had to. She was deflecting attention with Coach, with Albert. She stayed right in the middle of those two. The perfect strategy to get to the end. If you can win a few immunities in there, it adds to your strength. She wins 3 immunities. Definitely a girl deserving of the $1 million. But she's only going to win. She's going to win Player of the Week for this week, putting her up to 3. However, Player of the Season goes to Coach Wade, Benjamin Coach Wade. Congratulate him. 3rd time he played this game. He did an admirable job. He is my winner. Sophie is their winner. I'm happy with it. And according to America, Ozzy is their winner, and that's completely bogus. He did not play any type of social game at all. Without Redemption Island, this guy, he barely makes it to the merge, if that. So that wraps this one up. It was I would say about a 3.25 out of 5 season. The first few weeks up into the merge, about halfway through the season, I give this season about a 4.5 out of 5. I really loved it. It just really dwindled down to the end. And I feel like sometimes that's just because there's certain people that stay in the game that you probably don't want to be, probably not the best players like a Rick or someone. And it's just the fact that they actually stuck to their plan at the beginning. They made a solid 5. Coach, Brandon, Rick, Sophie, and Albert. They made a solid 5, and they stuck it to the end. It's hard to really harp on that. They did what they had to do. Rick and Brandon were the types of players that were never going to make a power play. Their alliance knew that. They used them for votes and dumped them at the end. That's what you do in Survivor. If they're too stupid to think of a way to get out of it, then you use them for votes all the way in. They still make some pretty good money towards the end, so I doubt they can complain too much. Anyhow, that wraps it up yet again. I'll be back next season, and for you Survivor producers out there, I'm still coming for you. I'm still trying hard. My dream continues to get on your show, and if you listen to my strategy throughout the weeks, you'll know I'm your man. So till next time, Crash out.